Arnold is taking control of The Apprentice and why it may be good for Donald's campaign. Emmy nominee David Oyelowo is here with the real-life inspiration behind his new movie, Captive, to share how she never lost faith during her terrifying hostage ordeal. Plus, her song's only half the story. Jill opens up about her heart-wrenching breakup and her most personal album ever. It all starts now on The View with Whoopi, Michelle Collins, Joy Behar, Raven Simone, and Paula Ferris. Now, let's get things started.
Welcome to The View, y'all. Welcome to The View, y'all. We walked out to Jules Classic and Who Will Save Your Soul? She'll be here later in the show. And before we go on, I just want to let y'all know my kid got very ill yesterday. We thought she was going to have surgery. That's why I wasn't here. But the good news is she doesn't have to have surgery. She sends her best to you guys.
I mean,
you know, she's a good egg, my kid, and I like her a lot. So I just wanted to let y'all know that what you heard was that she was sick, and yes, she was, and now she's better, so it's all cool.
Good.
And last night was the big premiere of the 21st season of Dancing with the Stars. I know this is ridiculous, but did anyone watch?
First of all, it's their 21st season.
Yes, finally old enough to drink.
Can you believe that? That's a long time. Sorry,
yes.
Go ahead.
No, it's a long time. I watched it.
Did you?
I did. It was good. There's a lot of interesting. Gary Busey's on. Interesting. They have a jockey, a very famous jockey, who came out and like pretended to ride a horse.
Right.
Very convincing.
Gangnam Style?
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Hello.
He was actually very good.
Yes.
I'd say the probably most shocking moment, Paula Deen is back on the show.
Really?
She is. She's back. She's on it. And she said something. I'm just going to read you the quote she said after she was done. She said, "I was scared. I had white underwear when I started, but it probably ain't white no more." Now, first of all, hearing Paula Deen say the word white, immediately I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, let's all calm down. But Tom Bergeron, you could see the spirit leave his body. I mean, he looked ghost white. He looked nuts.
No, I think what you saw with Tom was he really was deciding, do I go with this or should I comment? Because, you know, Tom's a stand-up, so he could have gone any direction with that.
He did. He ran right off the stage. I mean, he literally ran away from her.
Did she dance well?
Yeah, she was amazing.
She was amazing.
I'm an ABC employee, you know. She was great.
You are. And we all dance about it. Yeah, that's just a visual you really can't get out of your mind.
Was she dancing on butter?
She was dancing. She had 2 butter pads under her feet, and it was like Olympic ice skating.
Smooth as butter.
Well, I guess that was a nicer way to say that she had the poo scared out of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's, you know, dancing in front of people, I can't imagine is an easy thing.
No.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people are comfortable with it, and certainly not Paula. So, you know, when she ends up coming here, which they all do.
That's right.
We'll talk to her about it.
She needs to resuscitate her image. Let's remember that. Remember? She got into a little bit of trouble and was canceled on the Food Channel because of her racist remarks. Yes.
Yes. But, you know, everybody steps in it at some point.
That's right.
God knows I have, so, you know.
Well, she stepped in butter, right? So, you know,
She's knee-deep in
Yes.
Crisco.
Well, speaking of stepping in it, Republican frontrunner Donald Trump made a campaign stop to a sold-out crowd in Dallas, Texas yesterday, where he talked at length about why he's the best choice to be our next president. Take a look.
They said Trump is a financial genius, right? Trump is leading in Florida, leading in Texas. How does that happen? I have the biggest bank in the world from China in my buildings. Believe me. Oh, do I know how to build? Greatest. One of the greats. The Trump wall, oh, will that be a beautiful wall. That's why I have to make it beautiful. Because someday when I'm gone, they're going to name that wall after Trump, I think.
He's a one-man fan club. He's his own fan club, this guy.
You know what? Can I just say,
anybody but him.
I think we should have a drinking game for every time he says Trump.
Yeah. You'd black out in about 2 minutes.
I know, we'd black out in like 2 seconds, probably.
When I watched the speech, CNN, first of all, they cut in, like, you know, like they do with all their disaster porn. Whenever a tragedy happens, they, like, cut in breaking news. And I watched this speech, and he looked like a Batman villain to me. He was, like, slumped over the podium. All he needed was Trump.
Oh, Trump.
He needed a top hat and a monocle, and it was, like, straight out of a Marvel Comics.
You see,
evil.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Well, you know what, you guys, we have 6 more months until the primaries when things really get interesting. He's already starting to slip, according to the New York Times latest poll.
Is he
just
really?
a little. He says he's slipping a little teeny bit to Ben Carson, but the people that are voting for him are voting for him. They're 2 times more likely to support him than any other candidate. So they've already got their minds made up.
Well, Hillary, the reason Hillary's having a problem is because she can't act. You need to be an act. She needs to go to the actor's studio because all these people who are doing well are basically acting. They're entertainers. Ever since Ronald Reagan was president, the entertainment and politics have blurred together. That is the Teresa Giudice. She could run for president.
Oh, that would be. I need a big forehead in the White House. That's one of my platforms.
Springer from the Slammer first.
Yeah, this is true. But, you know, you say that, but I wonder because Democratic nominee Bernie Sanders took a completely different approach to it at a campaign stop at a Christian college, Liberty University, where he did not preach to the choir when it came to, say, abortion. Take a look.
My view is I respect absolutely a family that says, no, we are not going to have an abortion. I understand that. I respect that. But I would hope that other people respect the very painful and difficult choice that many women feel they have to make and don't want the government telling them what they have to do.
What the president should sound like someone who understands what's going on in the entire country and can have sympathy, but also for both sides.
Yes.
That is not what Trump is doing.
And I applaud. Can I just say, it is. This was a bold move by Bernie Sanders. It was a bold move by Liberty University. I went to a really Christian, conservative Christian
University is Jerry Falwell's
Yes, and this is
evangelicals, right?
Exactly. But I think in the broader scheme of things, what he's doing, he's showing that, listen, everybody, there's more that unites this country than divides us. And he's bringing up a really important political narrative. Let's focus on some of those other issues, but let's think too. I love one of the students that was listening to him said this afterwards. He said, we should have that compassion for the lowly, the ones who are in need, the undesirables, the tax collectors. I just love that he's getting these kids to think, even though there's a lot to divide them.
Doing is appealing to evangelicals and saying, you know, Jesus was a socialist. Jesus was an evangelical in a certain way. He cared about the poor, take them off the street, give me your tie, etc. Now, the problem with the difference between Bernie Sanders and the evangelicals right now is that Bernie believes the government should help poor people. The evangelicals believe that the church should help poor people. Now, the church does not have the infrastructure or the money. They're closing churches right now all over the country. So how are these poor people supposed to survive without government intervention? Well, that is the question that's before the public right now.
He's raising them. Yeah, think about the inequality in terms of incomes. You know, think about let's think about this stuff.
Something really like shocking, and it's one of the things that we talked about this morning was that Christians care more about the unborn children than the children that are already born and suffering. And
not all Christians.
Not all Christians. But his point was that the conservatives that they're more concerned with what's happening in the womb versus in our
poor and hungry children in our community
and I think he actually has a point, and I agree that it's great that he reached across the aisle to Liberty University and exposed these people to a new point of view that maybe they haven't heard.
I don't think that they've been exposed to a new point of view. I think we should also applaud the school.
Exactly.
Because the school invited him to come and knew where he stood. Well, that's what I'm saying.
And they were very polite.
And listen, you may not agree with what people say, but you should at least hear it to see if there's anything, if there's any ground you can be gained. Because what we need to do is just figure out how are we as a human race going to survive all this crap. There's lots of stuff to mess you up, but, Bernie's saying no.
The problem is these evangelicals and the Republican Party don't want government intruding on poor people with tax money. At the same time, they want government intruding on my uterus. No.
Well, you're ultimately saying the same thing, though. Government has to true to make the law.
Right.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. There's always going to be government because they have to make it.
Well, so do you want to continue this? Because I think it's an interesting conversation.
I don't know, whatever you say.
All right, look, we'll figure out what we're doing, but we're going to go and come right back. We'll have more Hot Topics, not to worry. We'll be right back.
Did Carly Fiorina save face with her new campaign ad? Or will it make Donald come out swinging tomorrow night? It's all up for debate next.
Here, the transgender high school senior, who some parents are trying to ban from the girls' locker room. Now, Paula, you asked her a question that got a big reaction from the viewers. Take a look.
I have 3 children. I have a daughter who's 8. I need you to help me understand, because I would be uncomfortable. I respect you, but I would be uncomfortable if my daughter were in the same locker room as you. So I need you to help me understand why it would be okay.
I think with a lot of people, trans people see themselves, they really do, as the gender they identify as.
First of all, I don't...
Wait, so
sorry.
Let me just say, and I want to clarify, too, because we had all kinds of mixed reaction from a lot of our viewers, which you're going to get to in a second. But I think this is a really important conversation that we need to have. And I'm approaching it from a place of compassion. And I don't understand. I'm not questioning Lila's gender. I think she's beautiful. I said she's beautiful. But I think this is a conversation we need to have in our homes. I need to talk to my daughter about this.
What was the objection they had?
The objection that I had, the objection that it was just that I'm uncomfortable with it, and I wanted her to explain to me, and I gave her the opportunity to explain why I shouldn't be. And she gave a great answer, but we need to have these conversations with our children, and I can't just make the decision for my child, because this doesn't just impact me, it affects my daughter in the locker room.
I don't think you should even have to say that at all, because you have to ask questions.
Yeah.
Why is there a problem? You should have to ask questions. Just like, let's read some of the tweets. I think a lot of people were angry at you because of what they might have experienced prior to, or thinking, or not really listening to your words like most people do.
I was coming from a place of compassion, and I wanted to understand.
I understand.
So
let me tell you what they said. I'm not even going to say your names because I just feel like you're going. Somebody said, "You're killing me. You don't respect her. Best of luck to Lila Perry. Get the words right, and it's not about looks." Someone said, "You don't need to bring up someone if it's had. You don't need to bring up if someone had sexual orientation or surgery." And when discussing trans teens, and then some people say, "Thank you for asking the question. We all need to understand because this is a new." It's not new at all. It's a new world, but it's been here. We've just been people have been hiding for so long.
Not in schools, baby. It hasn't been. It hasn't been something that people have been dealing with for years. You know, transgender children are now growing into preteens, and we're now having to have these talks. So people
outside of the people who are transgender, because there's a lot of people who have been hiding for years that you see. Well, why are you so sad in your marriage or something like that? Or you see a lot of different kinds of movies back in the 60s. What was that movie with, and he was gay the whole entire time, and he, oh, come on, you guys, help me out.
Some like it hot. Anyway, I don't know.
It doesn't matter. It's been here, but no one has the conversation about it.
Batman?
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I will say that that's very funny. Robin's here. Bring him out. I talked to my brother yesterday. He watches the show, and he actually watched yesterday's with my 11-year-old niece, who had never really been exposed. They live in a small town in Florida, had never been exposed to a trans teenager. And he told me that they had a really important conversation after watching it.
That's great.
And he's a conservative guy. That, you know, she felt bad, but she also didn't necessarily feel comfortable. And it actually made me feel really happy about being a part of this, just because it is opening up even kids to the new reality.
Isn't the key to teach children to be tolerant and to understand different people? And so when they go into the locker room with trans kids or whatever, they're like, oh,
you
look,
teach that to kids,
fine.
But then they talk to adults, and adults don't have that same attitude.
Well, because everybody has to change their attitudes, because everybody's
changing. The media, there's more than just the parents. It's what they see on TV and music.
But it's also it's also what we bring into a conversation. Listen, these are new frontiers for a lot of people.
That's right.
These are brand new conversations that people never thought they would be having in their lifetimes. But now we have to have these conversations, just like we had to have the conversation when black people started living with white people, when we had to start deciding that we knew the world was going to be changing and not what we always thought it would be. So you have to have these conversations, and your kids, they are going to have these conversations because their friends are going to have parents who may be transgender. So you're going to have to grow Just like they're going to have to go. It's going to be harder for y'all because it's not something that's in your head, but the kids are dealing with stuff you've never thought of. So everybody relax and learn that you have to ask the question. You have to know.
And I think, too, and I just want to say one last thing, and then we can move on.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of our show, too, is that we're not just continuing conversations, but we're creating really important conversations.
17 years, they've 18, almost 20 years, that's what The View did.
And that's the beauty of this show. Go home, have a conversation, ask yourself that question.
And they also get to yell at the television.
That's
exactly.
Well, speaking of yelling at the television, tomorrow night, Carly Fiorina will meet Donald Trump at the Republican debate. And, oh my God. I have to show, she just released a campaign ad that seems to be a very, very clear response to his comment that she doesn't have the face you want to see as president. Take a look.
And look at all of your faces. The face of leadership. The face of leadership in our party, the party of women's suffrage. We are not a special interest group. We are the majority of the nation. This is base. A 61-year-old woman. I am proud of every year and every wrinkle.
I'm gonna need to see her face close up, though. She did not have a close up.
She had that Barbara Walters Vaseline lens.
Put that close up on, girl.
I mean, no, she never actually used that lens.
No, I know.
But that's okay.
Yeah, everyone.
Barbara, she didn't mean it.
Yeah, she didn't mean it, Barbara. Don't do it. Don't do it, Barbara. See, we know.
You know, she has the nerve to use the term women's suffrage when she's against Planned Parenthood and women's maternity leave. She's against Obamacare. She's anti-choice. She uses the term women's suffrage. She should be ashamed of herself. It's not your face, honey. It's your policy.
I had an HP printer.
You better come forward, Joy.
I love that.
Joy just
You know what I loved? I think it's brilliant, too, regardless of the policies. And Robin Roberts, a dear colleague of all of ours, when she was going through some hard times, she said, you take your mess and you make it your message. So the mess, what Donald Trump put in her face, about her face, she's now turning into her message. And I think that's the beauty of life. And it's something that we can all do with our own lives. When somebody shoves something in your face, you turn it around and you own it. You own it.
What's she going to do when Trump says it to her face, her face?
We'll find out. We'll find out tonight because you guys are going to be...
Tomorrow night.
If everybody would... This is a teacher in me now. The homework assignment for this audience is to watch the Republican debates tomorrow night. I will tell you again tomorrow to remind you.
Yes, it's very important because how will you know how you feel if you don't know what's being said?
Be informed, people.
You know?
You have to be informed.
You won't know. We'll be right back with more Hot Topics.
Do you need to have children to be...
Kim Cattrall is getting a lot of backlash from a lot of moms right now who have an issue with what she's trying to redefine, they say, motherhood. Here's what she said about it.
It sounds like you're less because you haven't had a child. There is a way to become a mother in this day and age that doesn't include your name on the child's birth certificate. You know, you can express that maternal side of you very, very clearly, very strongly.
That's got a regular Shakespeare. Where's that accent coming from?
You can be a mother. Was that a good
remember when Madonna was British for a hot minute and people were like, what?
I couldn't even listen to what she was saying because the voice was throwing me off so much. I'm so sorry.
I don't have honestly, I have 3 kids. I don't have a problem with it. I know, and I think we have to be sensitive to a lot of the women out there that have tried for years and haven't been able to have children.
That's what she's saying.
No, but she's saying that she is a mother to many people. She feels like she's a great aunt.
Maybe she did it by choice, though. It's not
she
you
may
saying
have.
you feel sorry.
But I'm not feeling sorry. But I just think just because you haven't birthed a child doesn't mean you're not a mother, and you shouldn't be labeled as childless.
Go ahead,
sorry to interrupt, but that's what Tempo Temptress says on Twitter. She goes, calling a person #childless can be offensive if they wanted kids but couldn't have them. Then it becomes a cruel remark.
Yeah, but I didn't rip my guts out to be called a mentor, okay? I'm a mother.
What about if you adopt, Joy? What about if you adopt?
I didn't adopt.
You're still a mom.
Sometimes I'm a mother.
Listen, a mother, for me, generally, mothers raise children from the beginning to the middle. Sometimes you get them in the middle to the end, whatever it is. There are certain things that go into motherhood that mentors do not do.
Right.
And so when someone does not have a child, I think you say you don't have a birth child. Maybe you have lots of kids that you take care of. You're a big sister to somebody, you're a cousin, but a mother should get they should be allowed to have their thing. Now, what's another word for a person who chose not to have a child?
Right.
Smart. We have
smart.
you know.
Alcoholic.
That's the phrase. You know.
I'm just saying, I get where she's coming from, though, because, you know, like painting this big negative space where it's implying that as a woman, we are expected to have kids. And if once you don't...
Yeah.
I mean, listen.
But you are childless. If you don't have children, what is it? Is child-free better?
No, that's worse.
Would it have been easier if a woman told her this and not a man? Did she feel offended because it was a man, maybe?
I think that there is a judgment in our society when you choose to go through life without having kids. I do think that there is a sort of like, you know, she never had kids, or like she never got married.
That's a different conversation. That's a conversation saying, does a woman, in order to be a woman, do you have to have a child? No, you don't. There are many women who have been quite successful in the world who chose not to have children. That's a choice you're allowed to make. Everybody wants to be a mother.
You know, I was talking to a woman who lives in Italy. A woman who lives in Italy. Italy has zero growth in terms of nobody's having kids there anymore.
Yeah.
They're done with the million bambini over there, you know? So she said that these women are selfish because they don't want to have any more kids. I don't agree with that. I think that if you decide you don't want any kids, that's not a selfish thing.
No.
I mean, the Duggars have 150 kids. Maybe that's more selfish, actually.
Yes.
Using up more, you know, things on the earth and the oxygen.
There's someone on, there's a real big mom believer on Twitter right now, and her name is @DanaBrass, and she says it's very noble and commendable, but you ain't been a mom until you've done 7 meal deals, 7 years, sleepless nights, and counting. Is that right?
Yeah, well,
I think there's something to be said to that. But again, there's nothing wrong with having play moms, but in order to truly call yourself a mother, I think you have to do the work of a mother.
She's an aunt also. She's got nieces and nephews. Why can't she be an aunt?
You know, she could be an aunt.
Play mom, too. Who basically saved me from my parents.
Play mom gives the baby back at the end of the night.
But you know what? We're not playing here. We're not play moms. We're not people-less. We are just bunch of bitches sitting at the table talking about life. We'll be right back.
David Oyelowo when The View returns.
Oyelowo.
David Oyelowo when The View returns.
David Oyelowo when The View returns on ABC.
Sometimes a true story is more compelling than any fiction Hollywood can come up with. In the new movie, Captive, David Oyelowo stars as Brian Nichols, the gunman who killed 4 people at a Georgia courthouse in 2005. Kate Mara plays Ashley Smith Robinson, the woman he took hostage when he was on the run. Take a look.
Ashley. So what are we going to do? You're going to talk. You're going to talk, all right? I'm going to shut the door. You're going to talk.
Okay.
Hey, hold on. That's it. We're going to go to Mexico. We're going to get that truck. We're going to go to Mexico, rob the bank, though. Understand where we're going, Ash? Where we're going?
Mexico.
That's right.
God, please help me.
Please welcome David Oyelowo and the real Ashley Smith Robinson. So this story is quite something. I mean, so you get the script, you read it. What's your first response to it, and why?
Well, my first response to it is I can't believe this is a true story. I mean, that's what really hit me. I had read Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Life before, and to me that book is just about how, personally, God's purpose is greater than anything we could see for ourselves. I then encountered this story when I read that script, and, you know, at the time, Ashley was a meth addict. Brian Nichols killed 4 people in a day, ended up in her apartment. You have a meth addict and a murderer for 7 hours in an apartment. Nothing good should ever come of that.
Right.
And yet, she has gone on to live a life full of purpose beyond that, and that really is what drew me to the story.
Yeah, it's a purpose that we can't... It's a purpose and an ending that we obviously couldn't fathom. But Ashley, I have to ask you, I remember this story well. You know, he held you hostage in your home for over 7 hours and taped your wrists. And you read that book that we were just talking about, The Purpose-Driven Life, that probably a lot of you have also read. You read that book to him.
Yes.
Why?
Well, at the time, I was actually struggling with a drug addiction to meth, and I was, in a way, trying to find my way back to God. The Purpose-Driven Life was introduced to me. You know, my aunt had prayed for me, and she had expressed that she had prayed for me and said that I wasn't going to change, that God just take me home. And, you know, I got a hold of the Purpose-Driven Life. On the front of it, it says, "What on earth are we here for?" And that's what I needed answering. And so as I was battling back and forth between this addiction and trying to get back to God, and Brian Nichols took me hostage, I chose not to do drugs that night, which was a life-changing experience for me. And in that, I felt the need to fill it up with God. So I read My Purpose-Driven Life after he said I could.
You kind of saved one another's lives, and that's the beauty of the title Captive as well, though. You were captive to your lifestyle,
yes,
and he was holding you captive as well. What was it like to actually see your real life transpire on the big screen?
It was very surreal for me. Of course, it was very emotional. Each time I watch it, I don't expect any more emotion because I've already felt it, I've already seen it, I've already lived it. Yeah. But each time I grip my seat, each time the scenes with Paige specifically, my daughter, just seeing those just take me back and help me see that this was real life, and God reached down and he pulled me out of a life that was not good.
So, your performance is kind of wonderful in that you could have gone way over the top, or you could have underplayed it to the place where it was just boo-hoo. You didn't do that. Your choices were really, really smart. So did you sit down and conscientiously say, I really have to make sure that this doesn't go so far out that no one cares about it, or so far under that no one is interested?
The tricky balance for me is that in respect to the victims on that day, Brian killed 4 people, and you can't get away from the fact that there are broken lives that are still suffering because of what he did. Cynthia Hall, who he also bludgeoned, the prison warden, has never been right since he bashed her over the head. But you also can't get away from the fact that this was still a human being who committed monstrous, heinous acts. He's serving multiple life sentences for it. I would say that's the requisite punishment for it. But something about that fugue state he was in on that day was diffused by, I think, the compassion you showed him when he broke into that apartment. And they found a common ground over children that they were both ostracized from because of bad choices they had made. You made pancakes for him, which is still an extraordinary thing to me.
So you made everybody is human in this.
In my opinion, and it's a hard thing to say, especially when there are victims in this, but no one is beyond redemption.
That's right.
That's a belief of mine. I would struggle more with that if it was a family member of mine who had died that day.
Or if he had done it to somebody in the family.
Exactly. But, you know, you, to me, are evidence of that fact. I mean, Ashley said on that day that she felt she was worthy of death because of the choices she had made. It was the opposite. It was the point beyond which her life became so full. And your life is now blessing other people.
Have you talked to him? Have you talked to him since then?
I have not talked to him since then.
Any desire to?
Yeah, I have a letter that I jot down a little bit each time I think of something that I may want to say to him. I don't know if I'll ever send it, but it is something that that I do occasionally.
David, you brought up a good point about Ashley's life, how she's been able to kind of redeem herself. And I saw the movie with my husband last night, so powerful. But where are you at with your life today?
Well, you know, like David said, it has been a real hard struggle for me, because here I was, this lonely widow drug addict mom, and these 4 well-respected, important people are the ones that lost their lives, and I'm the one that lived. And so I've tried to find the balance to go, God, why did you choose me? I don't understand. Ultimately, I've just began to realize that God chose me because he changed my life, and I'm supposed to tell the world that. You know, today I'm a mother of 3 kids. I've been married to my husband for 8 years. I work a normal job. I'm an x-ray tech, and also I go around the world just sharing my story. And
well, the other thing that you're meant to do, it seems to me, is you to keep those folks who lost their lives alive in people's minds too. So that's part of what you're supposed to be doing, and you're doing it. So thank you, Ashley, and thank you, David. Captive is in theaters on Friday. Do yourself a favor. Go see this. Go see this. We will be right back.
Jewel is gonna shine on The View next.
Up in the 90s, Jewel was my everything. And 20 years, right? And 20 years after her debut album sold 12 million copies, Jewel is returning to her roots with a new folk album, picking up the pieces, and a heartfelt memoir, Never Broken. Please welcome Jewel. Welcome. Baby. We fanned out a little bit towards you, but I'm going to do it on camera. I think you're an absolutely spectacular songwriter, entertainer. I think you're a fabulous actress. I love what you've done for music, and I thank you so much for doing another album and making it biodegradable.
Bless you.
I'm sorry, I did my piece, Michelle.
No, listen, when I heard Jewel was here, I got into this interview. I listened to pieces of you. That was your big album. When I was a teenager, it was like my anthems, and I love it. And now you've been through a lot these last few years, right? You know, you had the birth of your 4-year-old son, Case, who's absolutely adorable. You had kind of a public divorce. Yeah. You know, how are you doing today?
We're all doing well. My family's doing good. Ty and I were able to transition our relationship, because divorce doesn't get you out of a relationship, obviously. You just have to change it for the health of everybody. And I think we've done that. I've been proud of that. My son's doing really well. And it was really it was an emotional year. It was really a good time for me to reflect, and I just felt like it was time to write this book. A lot of people know quite a bit about my story. They know I was homeless, had an abusive background, moved out at 15. But there's a lot that people don't know, and I really wanted to remind people that our pain doesn't have to define us except in the ways that we choose, and that can make us exceptional people if we're willing to transmute that pain.
I mean, as a writer, that's what you do for music, right? And with this album, it's so heartfelt. I heard you had a very emotional roller coaster recording this album. Could you tell us, please?
Yeah, when my son was born, I realized that I wasn't quite the woman I wanted him to know, and that parts of myself had become domesticated. And I don't mean by marriage, I just mean with life and time. And I wanted to peel back all the veneers and just have a very raw emotional experience. So if you heard this record, it felt like there was a line from my vein to yours, and you would feel everything very viscerally. And that's what I did, and a couple of songs were hard. Love Used to Be is a eulogy for my marriage, and I think I cried through 7 takes, and it was a difficult one.
7 takes? You only do 2, Jewel.
I know.
You know. Girl, please. What?
Jewel,
I know you, Jewel. You don't even know.
I think everyone is just dying to hear you perform, and you know, you brought your guitar today. Tell us in 2 seconds what you're singing for us today.
I'm singing My Father's Daughter. Dolly Parton sang on the CD with me, which was really an honor.
You guys, Jewel,
please. Picking up the pieces. Take it away, Jewel.